How's it going, everybody? Nick fucking Daniels here, and we're gonna do another movie review. So sit back, relax, grab something to eat, take it easy, and we're gonna talk about 12 Years a Slave. I always call it 12 Years Slave, but you guys get the premise. Anyways, we're gonna massively spoil it here for you folks. And I've watched this many times, but now we're kind of did the Thor review, I kind of want to start talking about some movies maybe I've already seen before, but a while back, and lay out my opinions of these movies, because some of them I feel are so good, or well, so shit that, well, there you go. 12 Years a Slave is based on a black man and his family, based on a true story, and he ends up meeting these two gentlemen, right? It's like 1980 something, I think it is, that it's supposed to take place. He meets these two gentlemen, and what happens, they have like some business opportunity where he can play some music for them, you know, and he gets a bunch of money. And, you know, and the way they talk, it was like, you know, $1 a day or something. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously back then that was huge. You know, and he's well known in the community, like he's a good guy. You know, he's very respectful. And there's actually a scene where a younger black male runs into a building, and where he's in with his family, and then some white man runs in after him and grabs him and gets him out of there. I say white man because the way the movie portrays it is, well, obviously there's a lot of, you know, it's slavery, right? And that's, you know, obviously they say the N-word a lot in there, which I don't need to repeat, but you guys get the idea. You know, to me it doesn't really matter what color your skin is, but the way the movie's portrayed, and especially based off that story, that was huge back then. And kind of like I said, the point of the movie is that he's well respected in his community, but he ends up getting led astray and sold out into slavery. And there's a few points in the beginning, and it's very early in his new life, you could call it, where he tries to claim, like, my name's Solomon, and or whatever, and, you know, and I have a wife, and, you know, whatever. And basically they tell him, like, no, you know, this is now your name, Platt, that's what they're calling him. And he tries a few times to try to explain to people that we need to rebel, or I'm a free man and get my papers, and every time it backfires for him, and eventually he just learns to really be quiet. Is the only way to survive. Because there's a few points where people are either getting hung or killed, like stabbed in the gut, whatever, and, you know, easily could have been him. And, you know, and I think it's really traumatizing. There's a scene in the movie where he's got to go to the store and get a list, and he just decides, okay, maybe I'm going to run off now, right? I have an opportunity, I can get out of here, right? Which, I don't know if it would even do him any good, but you know what I mean? He could make a break for it. And he runs up into a group of people where they're hanging 3 of the slaves in front of him, and they let him go along and go to the store. And I think that's a really powerful scene, because it really shows how fortunate he is in the situation that isn't him. Now there's a lot of points in the movie where he tries to trust people, or actually there's one specific one where he tries to trust somebody with a letter, and he gets betrayed, and again it looked like he was probably going to get killed, but he ends up having to lie. So he's done some things, and he's even stood up to some of the masters they call themselves, where, like, he doesn't feel like it's just, you know, like the punishment they're trying to give him or something isn't just. And again, a lot of the times that backfires on him completely, because, you know, in that day and age you don't want to do that. But eventually at the end of the movie, and, like, again, apparently this is 12 years he survives out in the fields and, you know, doing whatever they make him do. At the end of the movie, which is incredible, by the way, at the end here, he ends up meeting a Canadian that, like, believes him. That's like, he's taking one last chance, it seems like, and he tells him, like, everything, right? And he's like, I'll write a letter for you, and you know what I mean, and I will promise you, like, you know, it's just between you and I, yada yada. And he does, actually, he does write the letter, and he does send the letter, and I think his name is Mr. Davidson or something, but it's obviously one of the guys from his community that he knows really well. And he ends up riding down one day with a sheriff and another gentleman, I think, and like on their horses there, and they see Platt. They're like, Platt, yada yada. He comes up and he's like, do you recognize that man? And of course he does say, he's like, he barely recognizes him, but he sees him, but he's like, it's clues in, right? Like, he's been away for so long, like almost didn't see like any light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, and he's like, the way that scene works is perfect, because they run to each other, and the guy who currently owns him, so has bought him as property, is yelling and screaming like, get the fuck away from him, yada yada yada, like that. And the sheriff is like, you get your hands on him, he's a free man. And he's like, what's your wife's name, what's your family's name? And he just he's yelling it all right off, like he knows everything because it's him, right? He's like, do you have another name? And he's like, Solomon whatever, I'm a free states of this place. The master comes up and he's like, what the fuck? Like, he doesn't understand, like, that this is a free man. This is not somebody who's been bought into slavery. Like, there's points in the movie that just shows the barbaric nature, where they're literally, like, tearing families apart. Like, one guy's wants to buy the girl, and he's like, oh, you know, she's gonna make me all kinds of money. You know, and it's literally, like, again, watching them try to buy these slaves off and, like, what they're auctioning for. It's like, you realize these are people. Right. Oh, let's hear someone talk. Yeah, like they're fucking human beings, you know. But that's part of the movie's really crazy. There's a girl that one of the masters ends up like almost like falling in love with, and the wife just absolutely hates her. And I love that they even have a little bit of a dilemma themselves, where the wife is like, you get rid of that whore, you know what I mean, or I'm gonna be leaving. And he's like, I get rid of you in a heartbeat over her, or something like that, because basically she's like the best picker they have in the field. And at one point he ends up like raping her anyway, and it's crazy because like she wants to get killed at one point, and she's getting lashed, and like there's like so many things that, like, again, it's very emotional. The end of the movie to me was one of probably the most powerful, because he comes, well, the second powerful was probably where he gets his freedom, but when he comes back to society and he comes back to his family and his kids have grown, they've, like, his daughter's got a kid, you know, it's crazy. And it's like the emotional impact of that scene alone carries the movie to me. I've recommended this movie through and throughout, and I'll recommend it again here. Absolutely fantastic film. I would say for anybody to watch it. I think it's something that you could really sit, it's not even that long, it's like a good 2.5 hours, but it's one of those movies that, like I said, you can really sit down and just get in depth with, and you really kind of fall in love with the characters that you see, which is mainly like I said, it's really Solomon, but you'll see a few others, but like, again, some of them are just kind of these irregulars that you're only going to see for a few minutes, you know. And in some of the situations, like I said, some of them end up getting killed off, and I think that's the other thing too, like, you know, you don't even realize like kind of what people had to go through in that time, right, of need. And that to me, that movie portrayed it. It really, I don't think it gave you everything, but it gave you what this guy in general went through, and probably all they could really get through in, again, 2.5 hours. And I think they hit the most impactful stuff. Like I said, one of the biggest things for me, which really set the atmosphere and the tone, is when he runs through the woods and finds the guys being hanged, the couple black slaves, and the guys are just standing there with their dogs, and it's like, he walks by them and stares them in the eye just before they're hung, and like before they're pulled up and with the rope. And again, crazy scene, like just realizing like that could be him, right? That could be him, you know, basically saying like, I can't read and write, that kind of thing. But like the wife kind of clues in at one point, because he looks at the list and doesn't ask any questions, and most of the slaves probably say, well, what do you want? Like, he looked at it and just walked away because he looked at it and read it, right? And she kind of gives him like a bit of a stare, so she kind of understands like he clearly is different from the rest, and that's a big thing. So yeah, highly recommend the movie, folks. I hope that helped you guys out in figuring out if you want to watch 12 Years a Slave. Good time. I'm gonna keep a few movie reviews going. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we're gonna leave her there. Cheers.